Hello, and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you love the show, please leave a rating or a review on Apple or Spotify. I can't believe it's already less than a month away from the end of the year. This year has just gone by super fast for me. And this is the time of year where things really start getting hard for me. Christmas is the time of year when we met with the specialist who we thought would be able to help Jasmine, and this was when we only knew about the CDH. We had not yet learned about the mosaic trisomy 15. And I find that starting in December and leading up to our loss in March, it's just a really hard time of year for me. It's almost harder than the actual day itself. And I've heard that for others, the days leading up are hard for them as well. So this is just a reminder. It's okay to let yourself feel however you need to feel to get through this season. I think it's important to learn which days and which times of year are the most triggering for us. That way we can be better prepared when that time rolls around again. Just know I'm thinking of all of you this holiday season, and I'm here if you ever need support. Today I am talking with Kassandra. She is a lost mom of 2, and she has 1 rainbow baby daughter. She was diagnosed with PCOS and a uterine abnormality at an early age and told she would never be able to get pregnant. Kassandra had to have a termination for medical reasons because her baby, Atlas, had anencephaly. Kassandra talks about her experience going through her losses and also the importance of supporting families who have had to make the decision to terminate for medical reasons. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Kassandra. Kassandra, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this amazing podcast. So my name is Kassandra, and I am a lost mom of 2 and a mom to a beautiful rainbow baby girl. And I have had quite a complex story that I'll get into a little bit later. Currently, I live in southern Minnesota with my husband and my dog and my rainbow baby. I live close to my grandparents and my mom, which are very important to me. And I love to be outdoors and soak up the sunshine when able to, when it's not too humid and hot. And otherwise, I just love hanging out with my family, playing basketball, and just kind of just seeing where the day goes with family. You just kind of never know which direction you get dragged into. So yeah, so that's just a little bit about me.
Are there any special places you like to go outdoors? Are there a lot of places around you or?
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate to live next to a state park, which is nice to be in the forest. I'm in a lot of farmland right now, so that can kind of get pretty, Midwest flatlands. So it's nice to be surrounded by big trees and water. And I always felt that water was always very soothing. So if I could be by water and a pool or anything, it definitely makes me feel good.
Yeah, I agree. I do like being near we're not near it really, but I like being able to go to the beach or, just somewhere that's like the calming water.
Yes, it's so nice, especially from the busy pace of the everyday. Just to be by water is so nice and calming.
Exactly. So can you talk a little bit about your last story?
Yeah, so I kind of hit a lot of boxes with my last story. So at a young age, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, along with uterine abnormalities. So I was told by a head gynecologist from one of the main gynecology hospitals in southern United States that I would not be able to get pregnant. And I was in my young 20s, haven't met my husband yet. So I kind of went through the grief process with that, went to therapy, and kind of worked really hard to come to terms that I might not biologically have children one day, but there's multiple different options I could do to become a mom still. And the hard part though was marriage, because I was like, oh, I know a lot of people, want kids and how that works. So I was really nervous, but I met my wonderful husband in 2018 and told him pretty early on that I was not able to have children. And if that was a deal breaker, I totally understand and respect that. And he had a very heartwarming response of saying, I want to be with you, spend life with you. And if that means children biologically, or we adopt or foster, or even just fur babies, that's just fine with me. So I knew kind of he was the guy when he's just been so kind and supportive right off the bat. So then we got married in 2020, and we adopted a wonderful Rottweiler poodle named Vita, and she's our pandemic puppy. So she is very spoiled. And I was still, with everything going on in the world, I was dealing with a lot of fatigue and stress. And so I went into the doctor, and they said, let's have you go try an IUD to manage your PCOS symptoms. So I did that for a while. Then I had some irregular spotting. And so I asked for my IUD to be removed. And then 4 months later, I just still wasn't feeling right. I had this weird body odor, which I was like, oh, I just switched from aluminum deodorant. So I'm like, I don't know what that's that or what's happening. My chest was really sore and I just didn't feel right. So I had this weird hunch and I told my husband, hey, let's just quick go to Walmart to get a pregnancy test. And he looks at me like, what the heck are you talking about, lady? Like, what is happening? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, Google says, and as we all know, Google medical diagnoses are a scary place if you type in symptoms online. But
Yes.
I'm like, let's just go for it. And so that was weird. Here in southern Minnesota, our pregnancy tests are locked up. So I felt like really awkward because you have to like ask for an attendant. And then they're like, oh, are you expecting? And you're excited. And it was like super awkward. But anyway, besides the point, we went home and I took the pregnancy test and it was positive. And I'm like, holy moly macaroni. I have no idea what is happening. Like, I was told this was not supposed to happen. So I was shocked beyond shocked. And I looked at my husband and my husband looked at me. We weren't, like, obviously, like, this wasn't in the cards for us. And we both really like were okay with that. And so we had all the emotions kind of like hit us right there in the face. And I'm like, oh my goodness, here we go. You know, it was in 2021 in June when we found out. So, you know, still pandemic was looming, but not like, of course, in the depths of 2020. So it's like, I have no idea. So I have all these thoughts just racing through my mind. And so I start journaling and trying to get to, you know, my core beliefs here. And of course I'm excited, but now I have like no idea. Like, I haven't been eating right. Like, what is happening? Like, all this stuff. So called up my doctor and she was flabbergasted and she's like, okay, I'll refer you to OBGYN. And so it's about an hour and 15 minutes away is where I had to go for medical care. And so since I had all of my previous health stuff, I also have issues with my thyroid and autoimmune disease. So I was considered high risk right off the bat, which I don't know about a lot of you. I kind of liked being high risk because you get more tests and you can see the baby more, which reassured my anxiety through and through. So we went in and I got to listen to the heartbeat and I was like crying because I was like, this wasn't supposed to be for me, and just still processing all of it. And then I had to meet with a genetic counselor. In my family, we have a chromosome defect that causes some extra appendages. So I was born with 12 toes, and I also was born with like hand webbing and stuff like that. So it can get worse with each generation of family. So they wanted to do testing on that. So I was kind of just, you know, I felt like I was just hitting the ground running with this pregnancy, and had all the, you know, common pelvic pain, nausea. I was happy I worked from home because I looked like a mess. A grateful, happy, blessed mess. So then I found out though, so with all those testings, they did it for, I went in for my 8-week, I went in for 10-week, and then they said, let's do a 13-week just to make sure we can see everything properly. And that is when I got the sad news. So I went into the ultrasound and I had my husband with me. My husband's name is Darius, and he was sitting to the left of me. And if you guys haven't noticed by now, I am a talker. So I was just talking this poor little ultrasound tech's head off just about how excited I was about everything and how nervous I was, and telling him if we could see, like, if they had 12 toes like I did. And just seeing the little baby tick on the monitor just made my heart so happy. And the sonographer it was one of her first days at the clinic. And so I definitely have made an impact on her story, because unfortunately what they saw on the scan was my baby had anencephaly, which, if you're not familiar with what anencephaly is, it's with my baby didn't have a skull. So they had the brain, they had, their eye, nose, everything kind of there. It just, there wasn't a skull. So I didn't know that at the time. So I'm super nervous and, just the scan jitters. So she steps out of the room, and then I start having that sensation of, well, something's going on. And thankfully there was an MFM on call, and she actually came in, and I can't say anything like bad about my MFM. She was the most kind, empathetic doctor. She got to my level, held both my hands, and then I knew, she didn't even have to open her words. I knew it was gonna be terrible news coming out of her mouth. And she said, I hate to report that your baby has anencephaly. And here's my little positive can-do spirit. I'm like, okay, can we put an Iron Man mask on them? How can we go about this? The modern medicine, come on, we gotta have something. And then they're like, no, unfortunately, your baby's gonna not live. But the hard part with everything is the way their stage of anencephaly was it was the womb amniotic fluid was eating away at their tissue. So they weren't going to be getting any better or stay the same. They were just going to get a lot worse and get consumed basically by my own body. And then my body would be able to have all this fluid. So if I were to keep carrying, I would die. So went from a full range of motion to the beginning of this pregnancy to getting halted pretty fast in my tracks with this diagnosis. And I remember calling my brother and just sobbing right when we walked out. And he was like, oh my goodness. And so that maternal instinct is so strong. I'm like, I'm going to carry my baby. No one can tell me I can't. We're going to find a way. And then I was looking at my husband, and I'm like, I can't stand to have my husband have to suffer losing not only his baby, but me as well. And so it was really hard. So I told the doctor, thankfully I live in Minnesota, so our rules are a little bit different with TFMR. I didn't even know about TFMR before this, which is sad. I feel like that should be more of a well-known thing. So I told them I needed some time. I needed to wrap my brain around it. And I decided, while my baby was still living, still had a heartbeat in me, was still, chilling with me, that I'm going to give them their best end of weeks with me while I could. So I told the doctor that I'll proceed with a TFMR and a week from now. And I asked if that was okay medically, if I could physically wait, if that was still healthy for me to do so. And they said yes. So of course I was sad in the thick of it with grief, but I decided that my baby should go play on the playground. So here's me and my husband playing on a playground. And I decided, every kid deserves a Happy Meal. So I normally don't eat McDonald's, but I had a Happy Meal that week. And I just went with and did the grief motions, but tried to give my baby one of their best kind of last weeks with me. And then we went in they wanted me to go in the day before. They wanted to help open, since I never had pregnancies before and I had some uterine abnormalities. They wanted me to do seaweed rods first to help get my cervix to dilate. And then the next day they'd give me medication and I'd go in for a DNC. So since I lived so far away, I had to stay at a hotel in case I went early because of the rods. And so that was really hard, being away from home. I still thankfully with my husband, but away from my other family and support system. And we didn't tell anyone about the pregnancy. And I think that was hard. So my mom knew, my brother knew, his wife knew, and Darius and his family, some of his known, but I was just still so shocked that I was pregnant to begin with, that when that 13-week scan came, it was mind-blowing. So that following day, when I checked into the the hospital, and the nurse looked at me and said, "Oh, why are you here?" And I was just remember being so mad that I was asked that. And I understand they have to, and I have to confirm that. But I literally just looked at her and I said, "You guys are taking my baby away today. My baby's dying." And it was a very hard day. So they prepped me, getting ready for surgery. And as I was wheeling into the labor and delivery unit, a mom was wheeling out with her fresh newborn baby in a wheelchair. And in that moment, it just shook me to my core, because here's one of the moms on a wonderful, joyous day. I was so happy for her looking back, but here I am going in on my worst day of my life. I'm losing my precious baby that I didn't even know could be possible to me. And that I just remember her looking, like locking eyes with her, and the nurse behind me pushing me in a wheelchair just said, "I'm so sorry you had to see that." And it was a hard day. So I did the DNC procedure, and I did have an allergic reaction to the anesthesia. So that was hard. But other than that, everything went well. I did decline to know like more specifics of the birth, just because I was just really wanting to try to close that heavy grief. And I was just too much in the grief period to kind of want to know more details about my baby, which looking back, I wish I would have done a little bit more differently. However, in that moment, I had to do what was mentally best for myself. Thankfully, my husband was a great support the whole time. Hard part though is after the surgery, thankfully they said I could go home, but no doctor came to check on me. So I did leave without a doctor checking on me, because it was 5 hours after my procedure, and I just wanted to get home. I was sick and tired of crying and having nurses look at me and give me that sympathetic look. I'm just like, I just want to grieve in my own bed, watch crappy TV, eat junk food, and finally eat deli sandwiches and just chill with my dog. It's amazing. I don't know about you, Sarah, but deli sandwiches, they were like on my list. I could not wait to eat them.
I know, I missed them too.
That was my big thing. So then anyway, my husband and I decided to name our first baby Atlas, and we were able to have them cremated, and they were buried in a cemetery. So over Labor Day of 2021, my brother and his wife flew out, and we just had a really, really tiny, small service. And I gave everyone a amethyst purple heart, because that's what would have been their birthstone if they would have made it to their due date. And it was a nice moment that we all could share together. And so I didn't really know though about like FMLA and stuff like that. So I actually jumped back into work 3 days later, and which was hard, because I also help women who are newly pregnant make appointments and get their gynecology and OB appointments set up. And I also schedule for neonatal and pediatric patients. So that was really, really hard to hear the excitement in other women's voices. But then here I am sitting with an empty womb, traumatized after what I just went through.
I can't imagine how hard that was.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult. So I just thought I was able to work from home with that job. So I liked that fact, because then I could, after a call, just start crying, and I would just like run to my husband, and he would just know I had a hard call. Or it was the hard time. The political climate was starting to change as well. So I was starting to get calls about people who were talking about how I had my DNC at the same hospital I worked at. So we had people call saying, "Oh, well, abortion is evil and abortion's wrong and God is watching." And I couldn't say anything personally, right? Because I'm representing a hospital, but it was just the most devastating thing hearing these words and going through what I just went through a month ago. And I just wish that people would know that, I never thought a TFMR would fall under the abortion category. I've always been pro-choice, but it was just so hard in this political climate. I feel like it's just changing so much, and my heart breaks for every lost mom who is going through a TFMR. that gets faced with these cruel comments. You don't deserve it. Your baby matters, and you had to make the right choice for you. And I'm proud of you, because it is so hard in this day and age and any loss for real is so hard, but getting met with slander and protests over wanting a loved baby so much, but not being able to have one is just, it's devastating. So that was our first baby. And then I did though speak at a lot of rallies after, and that helped my grief. It was kind of weird speaking in a megaphone about my pregnancy loss story in front of a lot of people at women's right marches, but it helped getting my story out there, and it made me feel like, yeah, I suffered this terrible pain, but I'm able to help people as well, not feel so alone. And 3 months later, I took a tumble down my stairs and fractured my foot and ankle, and which was a bummer. So I was on bed rest for a while, and I just was like, this is not my year. And then while in recovery, I felt weird again. I was like, what is happening? Like, I just feel these weird symptoms. So I took another pregnancy test, and I was pregnant with my second baby. And again, a surprise. And I looked at my husband, I'm like, okay, doctors told me I couldn't get pregnant. Now I've had 2 positive pregnancy tests in under 6-7 months of each other. Like, this is mind blowing and such an emotional roller coaster. So we were super excited, but I was so hesitant. I had the anxiety like looming in, and I just was not, again, didn't want to share it with anyone. I wanted to make sure we got the all clear. And sadly, on Christmas Day, when I was at my mom's celebrating Christmas, I miscarried. And we were about 8 weeks along. My doctor appointment was kind of right after the holidays, because they were booked out due to the holiday season. And again, it was really hard to have a miscarriage and to go through another loss. And I just felt defeated. I felt like the chapter that, I closed off in my early 20s about not having a baby, and then having it drastically reopened earlier that year. And now here I am having 2 losses. I just wanted to close the chapter. I just wanted to be done and just adopt a whole bunch of dogs and live my best life, trying to figure out my best life. And with all this grief and honoring both my babies, and it was hard, and I didn't tell a lot of people. I didn't share it on social media, so it was weird. A part of me like grieved privately with my close friends and family. A lot of people didn't know, but then I totally told people in public. I don't know about you, but it felt easier for me to explain my story and share my story in the public rather than private with my close friends and family.
I think sometimes it is easier. Like, you don't know them. So I don't know, somehow that makes it easier.
Yeah, totally. So I was just like that random, grief person in the grocery store. They're like, oh, you have kids? And I'll be like, I do, but they aren't with me. They are in heaven. And the looks I would get. And I'm like, well, you asked.
I shouldn't have asked.
This is on you. So I hope I have some people opening twice for asking that question. I know a lot of lost moms dread that question. I definitely dread it, but I try to be as blunt as possible. I guess it depends on my mood though. Sometimes I just want to get in and out of the grocery store, right? So, but yeah, so that was kind of hard. And then I was sitting down with my husband, and New Year's Eve came, and I said, I want to close up this chapter, but let's just try one more time. Let's see. And so I'm a religious person. And so I prayed to God and said, if this is meant to be, it's in your hands. And even though I did have a lot of anxiety about it, so we waited the 3 months per my doctor. And unfortunately, my hospital's guidelines, I wasn't able to get any other additional testing. So I wasn't able to get testing to figure out why my first baby had anencephaly or why my second baby miscarried. I got a lot of pushback from the medical team. Like with my miscarriage, when I called and told them, they said, oh, well, did you use a strainer to collect the fetus? I said, excuse me, a strainer? Like, I didn't think to collect it. I was busy going through the darkest, the second darkest time of this year. And so it was just, I don't know, it's just so crazy how different medical professionals can handle those losses and those comments. But anyway, so I connected with the OB that really kind of was really empathetic towards us and told her that we're wanting to try again. And she put me on a higher dose of folic acid, thinking that would help the neural tube defect of anencephaly. And so on May of 2022, found out I was pregnant. And same thing had with my previous pregnancies. I had the nausea, the pelvic pain, and then I had extreme anxiety. So I went to therapy online because I did not want to ugly cry in front of a therapist. I wanted to ugly cry in the comfort of my own home. And they helped me a ton with like honoring both my babies and this new baby coming and different art things to do and trying to tap into more creative and journal. And so I was really grateful for that because I did have first trimester bleeding with my third, and it was so triggering because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna miscarry. And thank the Lord I didn't miscarry in that first trimester. I was still considered at high risk again, so I was seen every other week, which was really nice, for peace of mind of seeing the heartbeat, seeing baby. And then in July, we did find out the good news about the baby having a skull. So I was overwhelmed, overjoyed. And I decided to post on social media, my personal social media account, about my 2 other pregnancies. I still kept my third pregnancy, the current pregnancy I had at that time, a secret. And I don't know about you, Sarah, but I got a lot of pushback when I shared it with people. I don't know if they were just offended that I didn't share with it when it was happening, but like I didn't have the support I thought that I was going to get.
You mean about sharing your losses?
Correct. Yes. I had people upset that I didn't share it with them. They felt like we were closer, so I should have told them in the beginning instead of waiting like a year.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
I can't believe people would be like that.
It was hard because they were like family members and friends. So people I thought would, support me and want the best for me. And they were just cold. And some of them still today aren't as close, and they're kind of standoffish. And so that kind of hurts a lot because I thought, here I am going through a big griefy period and mourning my wonderful, 2 babies that are not with me here earthside. And now here I am pregnant with baby number 3. Like now I don't want to share about my pregnancy and the good news of anencephaly. So I felt like really kind of hunkered down. Still, I had my public Instagram account and I had great support. I followed you a lot because we were both kind of pregnant at the same time last year. So that was really fun reading your posts. They definitely helped me and other lost moms out there. I just love the Instagram social media lost community. It's like a bittersweet thing, right? Like
It is.
it's so supportive, but at the same time you're like, oh, we're in this crappy club, but hey, we have each other. It's definitely bittersweet. But the women in the Lost Mom Club, oh, I'm just so grateful for each and one of every you, because you guys have helped me so much, even though you guys don't know me personally.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, though. That's my goal.
Yes, so yeah, definitely. And even like your pregnancy after loss on the app, like I read the articles that you wrote, and it definitely helped kind of put me at ease, like, oh, this is a normal feeling, and okay, this is okay. Like we're going through this together. I feel like that definitely helped when I was feeling more kind of pushed out by some of my family and friends. So yeah, so back to baby number 3 journey there. It was a hard pregnancy. I switched jobs so I could be a little bit more active and out of the OB pediatric scope there. And I went to physical therapy, which was wonderful. And I was getting my 10,000 steps in and trying to be healthy and kind of coordinated with that. And then I kind of near the end of pregnancy, I started bleeding again and was really nervous. And so called the doctor and they told me to rush to OB triage. And because I was an hour away. So like, yeah, get here when you can. And I was diagnosed with gestational hypertension. So they said we'd want to try to catch it before preeclampsia. And so we're going to try to induce you at 37 weeks, which was December 30th of 2022. So last year. And so I was okay with that though, because I'm a planner. So I was like, okay, I can then, get my nesting, get all my house ready, get everything kind of ready. But still in the back of my mind, I was still convinced I was not going to bring home a baby. I was just so nervous. I'm like, I've been down this road before, and it was hard. It was so hard. And then kind of that day came, and I was, gearing up as we are with inductions and trying to be in the right headspace. And then shortly after, my hypertension switched really fast to severe preeclampsia. And my blood pressure was 222 over 119. So I was on high stroke alert, and they were pushing me with a whole bunch of medications. And I really kind of wanted, more of a natural birth to see like that part of my journey, to kind of like, I don't know why I wanted to, but kind of like to kind of like end my chapter, like go through pain to have a bit, like, I don't know. I felt like this weird kind of connection. Like I went through pain with Atlas and I don't know. It was so weird. My husband looked at me like, girl, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I don't know. It makes sense to me. So but unfortunately I did labor for 31 hours and no luck, and baby's heart rate was dropping really, really, really fast. And so with all my medical history and everything, they said, you're going to go in for a C-section. And I'm like, oh, this was not planned. I'm a planner. I like my little, so I like looking at my husband and my mom, who are my support people there. And I'm like, what do I do? They're like, obviously do the C-section. Like, it's going to save you and the baby. And I'm just like, it's been 31 hours, not thinking straight. It's just, you see those wonderful, pictures of people that are just after birth, and you're like, oh, it's just so nice. Nope. I look like a train wreck going into the C-section. And, but thankfully, I went in and I started having anxiety attack on the table, because ironically, it was the same room that I went in for my D&C with Atlas, which is my first baby. So now I have all the emotions setting in. I'm like, oh, here we go. And I had an anesthesiologist that overheard my anxiety, and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, you are a good mother. You are a mother to 2 babies already, soon to be 3. And you're going to do this. Like you're fully capable. You got this. I'm here for you. And just her soothing voice just kind of brought me back to real time. And I was able to have Magnolia as her name. And she came out and didn't hear for a while. And the NICU team was there trying to get everything situated with that. My husband left me to go make sure she was okay. And thankfully she was. And I have this wonderful rainbow baby now that is the joy of my life. And it's hard though. It is so hard being a parent after loss, and to navigate all this, especially as a first time parent to a living baby after loss. Because I'm like, oh, like I keep thinking like, would my first baby do this? Would Atlas do this? Or would my second baby? And it's just so hard to kind of feel these emotions. And I don't know about you and your journey, but I feel like it's so hard to play when you play those games. Or like I thought like, oh, if my first baby, if like Atlas, if they would have lived, like I wouldn't have Magnolia. So I felt like all these weird feelings and emotions, and of course postpartum on top of that doesn't help.
It definitely is a lot to think about when you think of, well, now I have this baby, but my other baby would be this age, they would have been doing this, or would this baby be here if the other one was? And it's a lot.
Right. Totally. Yes. It's so hard to think about that. Like I look at her and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful and blessed to be your mom. And then I have all this fun grief baggage that kind of looms all over, thinking of first baby and my second baby. And, if I didn't lose them, I wouldn't have been pregnant with my third. Like I had 3 pregnancies in under a year and a half. So my body definitely was tired. It's still recovering to this day, of dealing with all of that. And yeah, it's amazing how much loss still affects you. Like, I feel like a lot of people sometimes think that, oh, once you have a rainbow baby or once you're able to have a baby, that kind of then all that pain can kind of just be, closed up, that chapter. And it's like, no, if anything, for me, it's like reopened, and it's like all this more grief than kind of, I don't know, it's a different type of mourning. It's very hard.
It is.
It
And yeah,
is.
people think we just move on, and yeah, we never move on. I mean, we may
No.
move forward, but it doesn't mean we ever move on.
Yes, definitely. I mean, like, you could see me smiling in one mind, but I'm always definitely probably thinking about my baby in some way, or trying to find, the signs and stuff like that. And it's just crazy. And that's why I love, like, that you're doing this podcast and that the loss community on social media, because I feel like we are able to raise some awareness and show people who haven't had this type of a journey, kind of like, and a kind of a glimpse of it. I mean, I feel like sometimes, it's different for each person. I mean, loss is so affects people so much differently. Like, I definitely had more of a dark humor with my loss. I feel like people looked at me like, oh my gosh, this woman, what is happening, type situation. But like, I feel, and it's just, the grief process is so individualized, and it's so, personal. And then I feel like they try to, like, group us all together, and it's like, just because it worked for someone doesn't work. I mean, like, I'm gonna grieve the same way. And just like with the rainbow term, I know a lot of people don't like the rainbow baby term, because they think, it refers to a storm. And I think that's another, big personal decision. If you choose not to, like, I'll totally respect it, but I'm gonna choose
Right.
it because this chapter I never thought was gonna happen for me. So I consider more of that pre-infertility kind of story to be my storm, and then my 3 babies all kind of my rainbow kind of moment of becoming a mom. Um, so yeah, it's just so complex. So I
Well, and
appreciate
I
you
think,
doing. Mhm.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good.
I was just going to say, well, and I think especially for you, since you had to go through a termination, and, that's one of those subjects that doesn't get talked about, even more so than a miscarriage or a stillbirth. There's like that taboo around it. And, people are afraid to share about it because of, the pushback and the criticism, just like you were saying, all the negative comments.
Yes, yeah, especially so, like, now in this heated political climate, my heart breaks, because I know, like, in some states, I would have been able to carry. They would have forced me to carry my first baby. I wouldn't have had that option. And it just breaks my heart, because I feel like a lot of women are having severe medical issues or dying because they're being denied the TFMRs. And it's just, my my heart just breaks. I mean, you have this group of people that say they're pro-life, but they're just pro-life for the baby, not pro-life for the woman. And it breaks my heart for everyone who is going through that, especially now in this heated political climate, or being met with these protests. It's so disheartening. So I'm so grateful for the glimpses of hope that we get from, like, your podcast and people on Instagram and Facebook and these support groups, because I feel like people of TFMR, no matter where they are, need that extra support, need to know that their loss is a loss, and they belong just as much in the loss community as any other loss parent. And but they need that extra help too, because I feel like it's just everyone, especially in the United States, is just, not everyone, but there's that that group that's just so anti. And it's like, hold up, I didn't want to get an abortion. I wanted my baby. I don't understand. It's just hard. It's just hard.
And I think people too don't understand how both physically and mentally taxing being pregnant can be. I mean,
Oh,
I
yes.
I was one that, I mean, I love being pregnant. I mean, I had like all the, the aches, the pains, the swelling, the heartburn. I mean, but I love it. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't really hard at times. And my
Right.
body has definitely taken a toll being pregnant 4 times,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
people just think it's just some easy thing a woman goes through, but it's really not.
No, no. And just because, one person or you had a a healthy pregnancy before doesn't mean the next one's going to go that well, or vice versa. And it's just pregnancy is so unpredictable. And it's like what you said, it truly lasts like forever. It makes the impact on a mom, whether your baby is here with you or your baby is in the stars. Your body went through that, and it's like I remember reading that study where your body has the cells of your baby, so your
Yes,
baby is still with you. I love that. I love to
I
know
did
that my baby
too.
is still with me. That is just so warming and so comforting. But it just shows you, like, women and people who have births or even get pregnant, like, your body is amazing, whether you had a loss or not. Like, your body totally shifted. It's just amazing to me how the body just knows, like, kind of like, okay, here we go. And then it's hard though, because I know that a lot of people with loss can have distrust with their bodies. I had that too. But it's just kind of, I don't know, to me it's amazing kind of what our bodies are capable of. But like what you said, it kind of carries on. Like, with my third pregnancy, they found out that I had an insufficient placenta near the end, and I'm still bleeding 6 months now, almost postpartum. And they now are trying to me on all these antibiotics, and they diagnosed me more with endometritis and precancer cells and stuff like that. And I'm like, hold up, I just gave birth like 5 months ago. Like, how is this happening? And they said, yeah, that's just kind of your uterus decided just to kind of peace out. And I'm like, holy macaroni, like, what? Like, here I am going through parenting after loss and recent mom and postpartum, and now health issues on top.
You're like,
It's
what's one more
crazy.
thing? Just throw it on
Right?
there.
Yes, yes. I'm like, I'm only one person here. I don't know how much I can handle, but thankfully I have a good support system. I don't know if you do this, but sometimes you just got to senseless scroll on social media just to block everything out for a little bit.
Yes, I do that a lot.
Yes,
I'm like,
yes.
let's look at some pictures of some cute puppies and dogs and cats and
Yeah, sometimes that's just what you got to do. If the world gets too overwhelming, I'm like, here I am. I'm just going to senseless scroll and see kind of funny videos and the animals and stuff like that. So it's just, yeah, pregnancy is a wild ride for sure. And of course, no guaranteed outcome either. And I feel like society kind of, and I don't know about you, Sarah, but I get so much like mad when I like watch a movie and they're like, oh, and they have the glowing pregnancy, or they have this, or like the water breaking, and it's like all the water, and I'm like, okay, this is so far from real life.
and then
Like,
yeah, 3 hours later, their baby is here safely. I'm like, well, that was fast.
yes, yes, totally. And they don't like all this other baggage. I'm like, oh, Hollywood and movies just do us such an in-service. I mean, it's not accurate. I wish it could be true for everyone to have such that glorious time with pregnancy and everything. And I'm like, come on, we got to have some representation here.
So speaking of movies and TV shows, I know I've noticed that a lot more shows are starting to actually show pregnancy loss. So
Yes.
do you like that they're doing that, or do you not like that?
It kind of depends, right? So I don't know any Grey's Anatomy fans that are still around, but I guess I still watch it with my Ben and Jerry's weekly, right? It's my kind of me time. And they've definitely became way more kind of politicized in abortion stuff or pregnancy loss and this and that. And I I like the representation. It kind of leads to good discussions, but at the same time, it hurts watching it. It kind of like brings me back to my moment, but I have to remind myself it's kind of a good pain. Like, it's, yes, I'm grieving my babies and my loss, but it's might be helping someone who has no, like, they don't have any personal connection with loss, or they don't know much about loss, and to like raise those questions. And um I don't know about you, Sarah, but kind of segue from this, like, have you talked to your kids and stuff? Like, I know Jasmine's a big part of your story and like in your family and stuff like that, but like, how did you approach talking to your children about Jasmine?
Well, so my son, he's 9 now, and he was 3, almost 4 when she was born. So, he remembers me being pregnant with her. And, at the time, we just tried to explain it as best we could, but he didn't fully understand it. As he's gotten older, he's asked more questions and, you know, talked about being sad that he never got to meet her, things like
Yeah.
that. So I just try to answer his questions and give him, honest information that's age appropriate.
Right. Yeah.
My daughter, she's 3, my rainbow, she's about to be 4, and we have talked about her. I've told her she has another sister, but we haven't given her a lot of details yet. But as she gets older, we will. And then
Right.
obviously my youngest is only 5 months, but
Yeah.
um, but yeah, we definitely plan to. We include her. We have her bear that we put in all our family pictures. I have a couple of pictures of her in the house, and they know that's Jasmine. So we
I
just
love
kind of try to include her where we can.
Yeah, see, and I love that. And so I still don't know 100% how I'm going to be handling it. Like my rainbows, 5, 6 months ish. So it's going to be definitely, but I want to be as inclusive like that. But like back to tying it into the TV show thing, like I had some friends kind of contact me and they're like, was this your story? Like, is this similar to how you feel? And I'm like, okay, like just like kind of other things, people do things a little bit differently. But yeah, like I've had similar stories like this or so I'm just like, one thing I love that we're getting representation, but the other part of me is like, oh, when my child becomes more of age, like how am I going to approach this and how is this? But I have already brought her to the grave. We did tummy time next to the grave, which was so bittersweet. It was so hard, but like at the same time I'm like, this is the chance my girls are able to be together here on earth right now. And so
I
it's
love
just,
that so much.
yeah, so it just I don't so I'm kind of like nervous for the day when she starts asking questions, but kind of like you, I want to have that, inclusive, open to communication about them and to honor their them. And so it's just I don't know. I feel like I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that. Thankfully I have some time.
It's
But
a
I
hard
do
thing, because you want to give the information, but it's kind of hard to know. It's not something we've ever dealt with before, having to explain how one of our children or multiple of our children died to our living children. I mean, that's how would you ever come across like how to do that?
Pirates. Yes, yes. So like even like kind of when I went back to, like being asked in the grocery store, I'm like, what if Magnolia gets asked if she has siblings? Like, I'm not gonna correct, she can answer however she wants to answer that one. But if she says she has 2 other siblings, and then they'll be like, well, where are they? Like, it's just so not only does the grief affect, us parents and moms, but it affects our children too. So that's why I feel like parenting after loss, it's something. It's just
It
it's
is.
this
Yeah, that's how to describe it. It's something else.
yes, it's something for sure.
It's just something we have to, learn as you go and just do the best you can, because we come across so many like situations, like even just how do I answer how many kids do I have? How do I explain, do I go into the details? Do I not? Who do I go into it with? It's so many things.
It's I love how you said learn as you go. I definitely feel like pregnancy after loss to me was definitely learn after go. Like that's definitely my big thing, and especially now parenting after loss. Just I look back and I'm like, gosh, I remember those days where I was just innocent and I didn't have to know all this stuff, and now I'm just sitting here in a big grief bubble, and I'm like, goodness gracious, like
I
here we
know
go.
sometimes I long for that person who didn't know any of this stuff.
Yes, I truthfully feel like a big part of me died after my first loss, and trying to figure out now, like, who am I now? And now I feel like I have this extra kind of pressure, right? Because like I have a baby. I want to be a present mom and not be checked out, and want to be present for all these, big milestones and all this. But kind of like we were saying before, it kind of just looms on you like what would my first baby be doing? Like they would be already 1.5 by now and all this stuff. So it's just it's a balancing act. It very much is a big balancing act.
It really is. And, I had my son followed by 3 losses. So he was first. And when we lost, we didn't tell him about the 2 early losses. They were so early, we never saw a heartbeat or anything with those.
Yeah.
But we told him about Jasmine, obviously. And, it's just, it comes up in so many surprising ways, where he'll just ask some kind of question. And for a while he was afraid of she had CDH, so there's a hole in her diaphragm, and he's like, is that going to happen to me? And I'm like, oh no, like that, and it's just been, just things like that, just trying to explain, why it happened. And
Yeah.
it's a lot. It definitely is.
It is. And it's just, I mean, some days you're just like, easy breezy, and some days it's just heavy. It's just heavy. And so I just, and that's why I just love, like, I keep saying it, but I'm just still so grateful for you and that loss community, because it truthfully, like, I feel like people try to be so supportive and have, like that sympathy and, try to be there for you. But if you haven't really walked the walk, you don't really have that same understanding. And so to like see someone go through this, or like kind of how are parenting after loss, and your wonderful questions that you put in your stories on Instagram, and trying to have this collaborative community, it's so impactful for I don't know about others, but for me definitely, to be like, okay, you're not crazy, you're not alone, other people are going through this too, like we can do this together. It definitely puts the term, it takes a village. I
Yes.
rely heavily on my lost mama village. Like, you guys don't know me. You've never talked to me, really. You've never seen me. But oh my goodness, the impact that the lost community has made on my life to help me kind of just get back into life. I'm just so grateful for all of you guys.
I felt the exact same. I mean, I didn't find it until a few months after losing Jasmine. I didn't have it after my first 2 losses. I wish I had. But yeah, I don't know how I would have gotten through everything. And, now I'm just happy to get back however I can, because it's definitely given me so much.
Yes, and you've done so many fun, creative, like collaborative things, like the Christmas gift exchange and the card exchange and the Lost Book Mom Club. Like, it's just so nice just to be with other people that know similar feelings and that have gone through some of these horrible things, and this empathy and support and love that we are able to kind of create this village. And it's just so nice to kind of know that, hey, I'm not alone. And I love the openness. Like, I've never felt like I couldn't, quick message you or quick message someone else and be like, hey, you don't know me, but hey, can you help me with this? And I feel like a lot of women and people would be like, oh, definitely. Because it's just
Yes.
such a good community. I hate it. It's a bittersweet community. I hate that we're in this predicament, but gosh dang, the support and love is amazing.
I feel the same. I know. I'm like, I always say, I wish we had all met under different circumstances, but I'm glad to know you now.
Yes, I love that. That is very well put.
And can I say that one thing that I really loved about your story is the week that you gave your baby, take the McDonald's, all of that. I just think I've never heard of anybody doing that, and I think that is just so special.
Yeah, I'm really happy I took that time too. And just to have that kind of be able to look back on that, having some of those good memories, like even though I can't see their beautiful smiling face next to me experiencing things, but hey, we got to experience some great things together. And I'm really grateful I did take that time for us to kind of, yes, we were still grieving, still all that, but it was nice to know that, hey, my child ate a happy meal, and hey, we were able to do, go outside together and go be able to have some of these things that I didn't let myself do with pregnancy, and but yeah, it was a really, I'm grateful that I was able to have that time and be able to look back and have those kind of warm feelings in such a dark time is a treasure.
Well, and I definitely think I've always been a believer that, they feel what we're like, I don't know the best
Mhm.
way to word it, but that they feel what we're feeling. So like if we're directing love to them, I feel like they're feeling the love, they're feeling the positive energy, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so
Yeah.
I always just tried to channel every positive thought I could like towards Jasmine. Like I wanted her to feel the positive environment and to feel the
Oh,
love and to know that, that's what I feel like that's what her final moments were.
I love that.
Is
I love
just
that.
knowing the love.
And you are totally carrying on that loving legacy as well through this and through your channels and everything like that. Like I Journey for Jasmine was one of my first accounts I followed, and it was definitely a stepping stone for me. And so I appreciate you being so vulnerable and sharing your story and opening up your family life for that and being able to be this wonderful kind of leader in this lost mom community and helping share all of our stories. So I'm super, super grateful for you.
Well, thank you. That really means so much to me, honestly.
Yeah,
So is
yeah,
there
no.
any Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I was just gonna say, is there anything else that you'd like to share or add?
I think so. I think I'll just add that, if you're new to loss and this is kind of your first kind of month or week or even year, just be gentle with yourself. It's really hard, and you're here and you're trying to wrap your mind around a really hard subject. But like I said earlier, and Sarah said earlier, we have a great loss community, and don't hesitate to go through this alone. You shouldn't have to go through this alone, whether you have good support or not support. I'm here for you. I know a lot of other women are here for you, and it's hard. And your baby matters. You matter. And I am so proud of you for trying to put in the work to navigate your grief. And I wish grief could be a little more, you know, I don't know. I feel like grief is up, down, all around. You have good days, bad days, everything in between. But just you showing up matters, and your story matters. And I want to thank you again, Sarah, for letting me be able to share my story and have these wonderful conversations. And I'm just so grateful for my lost community village. You guys have changed my life and helped me figure out who I was after my losses. So I'm incredibly grateful.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
No problem. It's my true pleasure. I hope I'm able to shed some light on some of these hard issues. And I'm, like I said, I'm here to support and here to spread some love here in the lost community as well.
Thank you so much, Kassandra, for sharing your story and your experience with us. I know it can be so hard for women with any type of loss to share their story, but especially those that have had to go through a termination for medical reasons. So I just wanted to take a moment to reiterate that termination for medical reasons is a type of loss. This is a decision none of these families ever wanted to have to make. It's a position they never wanted to be in. These are very wanted babies. And it's a heartbreaking decision where there are zero good options, no matter which way you choose. So please always be kind to those that have had to go through this. It's easy to say all day that you would never make that decision. But honestly, you can never truly know until you are the one that is put in this position. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Please leave a rating or a review if you love the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.